Chapter 1. The Christmas Trip. Leo Mercer had always believed that discipline was the backbone of a good life. Discipline built skyscrapers, held companies together, and kept a man from falling apart when everything else wanted to. But as he guided his SUV through the frozen mountain roads of Aspen, what discipline couldn't fix was sitting right beside him, staring out the window, as if she'd rather be anywhere else. Vanessa hadn't touched his hand in over a year. Not voluntarily, at least. The Prescott's private condo came into view, perched like a glass fortress against the snowy peaks. Massive floor-to-ceiling windows reflected the dimming sunset. Even from the outside, Leo could see the glimmer of the $1,000 light fixtures Mrs. Prescott liked to brag about. Aspen royalty, she called themselves. Leo called it overkill, but he smiled anyway. He had to. "Daddy, look at the snow," Olivia shouted from the back seat, her mittened hands pressed against the window. Leo smiled in the rearview mirror. "I see it, Bug. Think we'll get a real snowstorm tonight." "I hope so. I want to make the world's biggest snow angel," she said, wiggling excitedly. Vanessa barely glanced back. "Olivia, be careful when you get out. The driveway's icy." Her tone was flat, automatic. No warmth, no motherly softness. Leo pulled into the driveway, where two figures already stood waiting, Harold and Judith Prescott, Vanessa's parents. Harold's thick coat probably cost more than Leo's first car. Judith's pearl necklace gleamed even in the dim porch lighting. Judith stepped forward, lips pursed. "You made it just in time. We were beginning to wonder," Harold added without turning his head fully. "Traffic must have been an ordeal for some of us." Leo forced a grin. "Holiday roads. You know how it is. Better planning could have avoided that," Harold said. Vanessa stepped out of the car and kissed her parents hello. She lingered in their embrace longer than she had touched Leo in weeks. Judith brushed invisible lint off Vanessa's shoulder. "You must be exhausted, darling." Traveling with a child, she gave Leo a fleeting, judgmental glance. "And someone who insists on driving instead of flying." Leo kept the smile plastered on his face. "SUVs safer on the mountain roads." Harold grumbled something about middle-class thinking under his breath, but Leo had learned long ago which comments to challenge and which to swallow. Olivia leaped into Judith's open arms. "Grandma!" Judith hugged her, finally displaying genuine affection. "My sweet girl, you've gotten taller since Thanksgiving." "I'm 8 now," Olivia announced proudly. Yes, and growing beautifully." Judith pinched her cheek before looking back at Leo with a practiced smile. "She takes after Vanessa." Of course she does, Leo thought. Anything else would be unacceptable to them. They all moved toward the condo entrance, the glass doors sliding open with a soft hiss. The interior was a blend of modern elegance and curated coldness. Marble floors, sleek furniture, oversized art pieces Leo didn't understand. Olivia ran to the fireplace. "Can we make hot chocolate?" "After dinner," Vanessa said sharply. "Not before." Judith sked. "Let her enjoy herself, Vanessa. It's Christmas." Vanessa's lips tightened. "I'm just trying to keep things on schedule." Leo caught the tension, that strange rigidity Vanessa had developed this past year, like she constantly held her breath around him, around everyone. He dropped the suitcases at the base of the staircase. "Where do you want these?" "In the guest rooms, of course," Judith said. "Vanessa will stay in her old room, and you'll take the one at the end of the hall." It took Leo a second. "Separate rooms?" Harold shrugged. "You snore." Leo didn't snore. Vanessa used a joke he breathed like a monk. But this was the Prescott way, control dressed as courtesy. Vanessa didn't defend him. She didn't even react. She simply walked away toward the kitchen like a shadow, drifting from room to room. His stomach tightened. A year ago, that would have rattled him. Now he simply picked up the bags. "Daddy," Olivia whispered, tugging his sleeve. "Can I help?" He smiled down at her, grateful for her soft presence. "Sure. Take Mommy's bag upstairs, okay? Not the heavy one." Olivia scampered off, dragging a floral suitcase behind her. Judith's heels clicked closer. "Leo, please don't let her carry anything too heavy. She has sensitive wrists." "She's fine," Leo said gently. "She likes helping." Judith's disapproval pulsed in the air like a perfume cloud. Children need structure, not chores. Leo carried the remaining luggage upstairs. As he reached the landing, he passed Vanessa in the hallway. She didn't stop, didn't smile, didn't touch him. Her eyes slid past him like he wasn't even a familiar face. He watched her walk away. Something inside him tightened. The same feeling he'd been ignoring for months. The slow, terrifying realization that he was losing her. Or maybe he already had. Downstairs, Harold opened a bottle of wine that looked older than Leo. "I suppose business has been adequate," Harold said as Leo joined them in the living room. Leo sat stiffly. "Busy, actually. We're finishing the Brookline project by March." Harold swirled his wine. "Peter Calloway is also bidding on that. He's quite talented." Leo's jaw flexed. "We're confident in our proposal." "Confidence," Harold said, examining his glass, "is not competence." Before Leo could respond, Vanessa reappeared, brushing imaginary snowflakes from her sweater, though she hadn't been outside for 20 minutes. "Dinner's almost ready," she announced. "Wonderful," Judith said. "We've planned a full week of activities. Skiing, charity events, private dinners with the foundation board." She looked between Vanessa and her parents. "And perhaps a little time for mature conversation." Leo knew the code. Mature conversation meant discussions he wasn't meant to be part of. Vanessa sat on the opposite end of the couch, crossing her legs away from him. Not once did she look at him. Leo pretended to watch the fireplace flames dance. Pretended to be comfortable. Pretended not to feel the growing distance between them, a distance so wide it echoed. Olivia returned from upstairs, jumping onto the couch beside him. "Daddy, look. Grandma put a big stocking with my name on it." Leo kissed the top of her head. "That's great, Bug." Vanessa's eyes flickered at the display of affection, but settled into neutrality again. Judith clasped her hands. "Well, it's Christmas. We're all together. That's what matters." Leo nodded. "Yeah," he said softly, forcing warmth into his voice. "That's what matters." But deep down a heavy unease settled into his bones. Something cold and sharp that didn't come from the winter outside. Something was wrong. Very wrong. And Leo Mercer, disciplined builder of structures and order, had no idea that this Christmas trip, this forced family gathering in a luxury condo, would shatter everything he believed about his life. Everything he believed about his wife. Everything he believed about his family. He just didn't know it yet. Chapter 2, Olivia's Warning. Christmas Eve dinner at the Prescott condo was always more ceremony than celebration. Judith insisted on a table setting that looked like it belonged in a museum: crystal glasses, gold-trimmed plates, polished cutlery arranged like military ranks. Leo sat at the far end of the long table, watching as Harold carved a prime rib with the seriousness of a surgeon. Vanessa sat beside her mother, laughing softly at something Judith whispered. The sound didn't reach Leo. Nothing for Vanessa reached him anymore. Olivia, squeezed between Leo and Harold, kicked her feet under the chair, humming along with the holiday music playing faintly through the condo speakers. Judith raised her glass. To family. Into a prosperous new year. Glasses clinked. Leo lifted his, but didn't drink. Something in the room felt off, a subtle tension, like the air was waiting for something to crack. "Daddy," Olivia whispered, tugging on his sleeve. Leo glanced down. "Yeah, Bug." She looked around nervously, checking whether the adults were watching. They weren't. Vanessa was critiquing the carving job. Harold was critiquing her critique, and Judith was smiling like Queen of the Mountain. Olivia leaned closer. Her little voice trembled. "Daddy, I need to show you something. It's important." Leo straightened slightly. Olivia rarely spoke in that tone, quiet, shaky, serious. The kind of voice kids used when they didn't know if they were in trouble or about to be. He lowered his voice. "What is it?" Her eyes flicked to Vanessa. "Not here." Something inside Leo's chest tightened. He set his fork down. "I'll be right back," he announced to the table. Judith blinked in annoyance. "Leo, we're in the middle of dinner." "It'll just take a second," Leo said calmly. He stood and pulled out Olivia's chair for her. "Come on, Bug." Vanessa finally looked at them, mid-sentence. Her eyebrows pulled together. "Where are you taking her?" "Bathroom," Olivia blurted. Vanessa narrowed her eyes, as if trying to assess the truthfulness of an 8-year-old's face. Hurry back. Leo placed a steady hand on Olivia's shoulder and guided her toward the hallway. When they were finally around the corner, out of sight, Olivia exhaled shakily. "Daddy," she whispered again, clutching something in her mittened hand, "I found it in Mommy's suitcase." Leo knelt in front of her to be at eye level. "Found what?" She looked around cautiously, then opened her tiny palm. There was a small black flash drive, no label, no markings, sleek and discreet. The kind people used when they didn't want something found. Leo's heartbeat slowed, then quickened. He stared at the flash drive, then at his daughter. "Where exactly did you find this?" "In Mommy's suitcase," Olivia repeated. "The secret pocket, the one she keeps the zippers closed on." Leo knew the pocket she meant. Vanessa guarded that compartment more fiercely than she guarded her phone. He reached for the flash drive carefully, like he was holding something explosive. "Why did you take it, sweetheart?" "I didn't mean to," Olivia said quickly. "I was looking for my gloves because Mommy said she put them there, but they weren't, and then this fell out when I tugged the zipper." She swallowed, tears forming at the edges of her eyes. "Did I do something wrong?" Leo pulled her into a gentle hug. No, you didn't do anything wrong. You did the right thing by telling me." Olivia sniffed into his shoulder. "I got scared. Mommy got really mad when she saw me near her suitcase earlier." Leo felt his stomach twist. "She got mad?" Olivia nodded. She yelled, loud, "I didn't mean to make her mad." For a moment, Leo closed his eyes, pulling in a slow breath. Everything inside him, instinct, intuition, fatherly protectiveness, told him this wasn't a small thing. And it wasn't something he could ignore. "Thank you for telling me," he whispered. "I need you to be brave, okay? Go back to dinner and pretend everything's normal." "Like a spy?" Olivia asked, suddenly intrigued by the idea. Leo managed a small smile. "Exactly like a spy." Her chest puffed slightly with pride. "Okay." He kissed her forehead. "I'll be right there." She hurried back toward the dining room, her tiny boots thumping against the hardwood floors. Leo stayed in the hallway, gripping the flash drive so tightly his knuckles turned white. The house was decorated beautifully with garlands, a towering Christmas tree, and twinkling lights. But suddenly the holiday shine felt hollow. Artificial. Wrong. Whatever was on this drive, Vanessa didn't want anyone to find it. And Olivia had found it by accident. His pulse pounded. Something icy settled in his gut, dread, cold, and numbing. He slipped the flash drive into his pocket and quietly moved toward Harold's office, a glass-walled room at the back of the condo. It was empty, silent except for the faint hum of the heating system. He closed the door behind him and lowered the blinds. The room smelled like cedar and old money. A polished mahogany desk dominated the space. A high-end laptop sat open on the surface, logged out but not shut down. Leo sat carefully, hands trembling just slightly. He'd never had reason to fear his wife before, not until this past year. But even then, he had told himself it was stress, burnout, pressure from her parents, anything except malice. Now, staring at the flash drive in his hand, he wasn't sure what he believed anymore. He inserted the drive into the USB port. The laptop made a soft click, then the screen flickered awake. A folder popped up instantly, no password, no encryption, as if someone had been accessing it frequently. The folder title hit him like a blow. Backup PNC. PNC. Peter and Vanessa Calloway. Leo felt the chill crawl up his spine. He clicked. Inside were subfolders labeled by month. 14 of them. 14 months. He opened the most recent. Messages. Photos. Screenshots. Documents. And then, buried halfway down, a voice memo file. The audio thumbnail showed Vanessa's initials. Leo clicked it with a clenched jaw. Her voice filled the room, cool and rehearsed. "After Christmas, I'll file. He won't see it coming. With the statements we prepared, custody will be simple. Daddy already spoke with a family lawyer. Leo will panic like he always does, and we'll use that." Leo froze. Her voice continued, sharp and emotionless. "Peter's right. Once we take his clients and employees, the company will collapse. then it's just a matter of financial cleanup. After all, it was never really his. The floor felt like it tilted beneath him. Leo pressed a shaking hand to his mouth. Everything inside him buckled. He clicked another folder. More photos, more messages, more evidence. Each file was a blade sliding slowly into him. By the time he reached the end of the folder, his fingertips had gone numb. His world, his marriage, his trust, the woman he'd vowed to love, all came crashing down around him. And Leo Mercer understood in that moment. Everything he believed about his life was a lie. Chapter 3, The Flash Drive. The office felt colder now, as if the temperature had dropped 10 degrees in the time he sat there. Leo stared at the laptop screen, unable to move, the dim glow illuminating the hollow shock on his face. On the desk, the flash drive's tiny blue light blinked steadily, a silent pulse marking the destruction of 15 years of marriage. He clicked another folder. There were more photos. Some were harmless on the surface. Vanessa and Peter laughing at a cafe, walking together after work meetings, sitting close in what she always claimed were industry networking events. But others he couldn't unsee. Her smile, wide, bright, real, the one he hadn't seen in months, maybe years. And Peter's hands on her waist, her neck, her thigh. Leo inhaled slowly, deliberately, through his nose. If he didn't control his breathing, he knew his hands would start shaking again. He needed to stay calm. Calm was safe. Calm was what Olivia needed him to be. He clicked on a chat log next. It opened to a conversation between Vanessa and Peter. Peter, he bought the story about the late meeting again? Vanessa, of course he did. He always does. He wants to believe we're fine. Leo swallowed hard. Peter, good. Just keep him distracted. We need 2 more months. Vanessa, he's not even paying attention anymore. He'll never see it coming. Leo sat back, staring at the words. Vanessa's tone, cold, confident, didn't match the woman he thought he married. There was no regret, no hesitation, only strategy. He clicked on another file, one marked employee transfers. A spreadsheet appeared with names he recognized. Project managers, engineers, architects he had trained, mentored, supported. Half the list was highlighted. Status: agreed to transition to Callaway Design after January. The date hit him like a gut punch. They weren't just stealing his clients. They were stealing his people, his company, his future. Leo whispered to the empty room. How long have you been planning this? The laptop didn't answer. The blinking flash drive didn't answer. Only his own heartbeat thudding in his ears responded. He opened the next folder, Client Acquisition Plan. Emails. Contracts drafted in secret. Peter promising the Prescotts that once Leo's business collapsed under legal pressure, the Prescott Foundation could funnel large development deals exclusively through Callaway. It wasn't personal sabotage. It was a takeover, a coordinated, calculated campaign. And Vanessa wasn't a reluctant participant. She was a leader in it. Leo leaned back in the leather chair, closing his eyes for a moment. His jaw ached from clenching. He forced his hands to relax, palms flat on the desk. He needed to keep going. He had to see everything, no matter how much it hurt. He opened the voice memos next. There were several, but the most recent one was time-stamped just 6 days ago. A recorded click sounded, followed by the faint shuffle of fabric. Then Vanessa's voice filled the speakers, sharper than usual, colder. Okay, this should cover everything for the lawyer. Leo's stomach dropped. She continued, after the Aspen trip, I'll file the paperwork. Leo will be too off balance to fight effectively. Peter says the key is to keep him reacting. If he panics, it supports what we're trying to establish about his temper. Leo's hands curled into fists. Temper? He had never even yelled at Vanessa. Not once. Their arguments were quiet, controlled, always him try to calm things down. And Olivia will be better off with me, Vanessa continued. Let's be honest, he's too busy to be a full-time parent. We can't trust him to be stable, not with everything coming. If we push the right way, we'll get full custody. Leo felt something inside him fracture. Full custody? She wanted to take his daughter away from him. Peter's voice entered faintly in the background. Judith said Harold already talked to the judge. Everything's lined up. Once we hit him with the financial investigation, social services will start asking questions. Easy win. Leo's breath froze in his lungs. The Prescotts were involved. They were all involved. The memo continued. Vanessa again. The company will fold within months. Once the articles go public and the payroll discrepancies are highlighted, he won't be able to recover financially. Honestly, it's what he gets for being so naive. A bitter laugh. I'll move in with you after the divorce. Daddy said we can stay in the penthouse until your place is ready. Peter chuckled. Finally, about time we lived together. A kiss. A soft moan. Leo stopped the audio instantly, his finger trembling on the mouse. He sat there, staring at the screen, breathing like a man pulling air through broken ribs. The chair creaked beneath him as he slowly leaned forward, pressing both hands over his face. Heat burned behind his eyes. Not tears, not yet, but fury and grief tangled into something raw, something sharp. How could you? He whispered into the darkness. She wasn't just cheating. She was erasing him, dismantling him, destroying him piece by piece, his work, his reputation, his home, even his daughter. This wasn't a marriage unraveling. It was a planned attack. Leo wiped his face with both palms and forced himself to keep reading. He clicked into another folder, Strategy Notes. It contained handwritten scans from Vanessa's notebook. Leo must appear unstable. Push emotional buttons. Use Olivia as leverage. Claim he works too much. Once custody secured, block visitation for 3 months. His stomach twisted violently. He had married this woman. He had loved her. He had trusted her. He clicked the final document in the folder, a typed checklist. File for divorce after Christmas. Submit testimony about Leo's temper. Present curated text messages showing emotional volatility. Push for full custody. Support Prescott legal team. In financial allegations, transition employees to Callaway collapse. Mercer Construction. Leo stared at the last line for a long, suffocating moment. Destroy Leo completely. His chest tightened. His pulse hammered. But then, slowly, the initial shock began to settle beneath a layer of clarity. A cold, precise calm washed over him. Years of managing crises on construction sites had trained him well. Panic was useless. Reaction was dangerous. Only strategy mattered. Only control. He closed every folder, removed the flash drive, and set it gently on the desk. His marriage was over. His life as he knew it was over. But Olivia, his daughter, his reason for breathing. She wasn't going to be a pawn in Vanessa's plan. Not now. Not ever. Leo stood, gripping the flash drive in his fist. His blood felt like molten steel, his mind a taut wire of resolve. He knew exactly what he needed to do. Before anyone else could strike, he would leave. Silently. Completely. Without warning. For Olivia. For the truth. For survival. Leo Mercer walked out of the office, his face composed, his heart shattered, and his decision already made. He was leaving this place. Tonight. Chapter 4. The Midnight Escape. Leo stood in the darkened condo office long after the screen went black. Long after he had closed the folder containing 14 months of betrayal. The silence roared in his ears. His palms, still pressed against the edge of the desk, felt numb. His breath came shallow, controlled only by discipline he'd spent a lifetime building. Upstairs, muffled laughter floated through the floorboards, Vanessa's parents finishing their wine. Vanessa chiming in with her carefully curated warmth. A warmth Leo now knew had never been for him. He straightened slowly. No confrontation. No shouting. No desperate questions. The decision landed in him like iron. Leave. Protect Olivia. Get her far away from the people planning to tear her world apart. Leo pushed away from the desk, switched off the small lamp, and stepped lightly into the hallway. The condo's motion-sensitive lights glowed dimly, enough to guide him without waking anyone. His heartbeat stayed steady. He had a job to do, packing without a sound. He entered the guest bedroom he shared with Olivia. The little girl slept curled under a thick quilt, cheeks rosy from the cold aspen air, clutching her stuffed polar bear. Leo paused beside her, brushing a curl from her forehead. "I've got you, Peanut," he murmured under his breath. He turned to his suitcase and opened it carefully, as though the metal zipper might scream if he pulled too hard. He packed only essentials, clothes, toiletries, Olivia's warm coat, her boots. Everything else could stay. He didn't care about the gifts, the fancy outfits Vanessa insisted on, the designer crap her parents expected Olivia to wear. He slipped Olivia's tablet into an outer pocket, making sure the downloaded movies were still there. She needed them on the plane. When he finished packing, he lifted the small suitcase upright and exhaled silently. Now the hard part, carrying Olivia out. He crouched beside Olivia and gently touched her shoulder. "Liv," he whispered. "Sweetheart, wake up for a minute." Her eyelashes fluttered. "Dad," she murmured, still half dreaming. "It's okay," he said softly. "We're going home. I'll carry you." She wrapped her arms around his neck instinctively. He pulled her close, lifting her small, warm body carefully, her head falling on his shoulder. She was still mostly asleep, limp in his hold. He reached for the suitcase handle, balancing it silently as he stepped into the hallway. Every creak of the hardwood made him still, waiting, listening, then moving on. He passed the living room, where faint embers glowed in the fireplace. The Prescott's enormous Christmas tree cast long, spindly shadows. Vanessa's leather purse sat draped over a chair, her phone plugged in beside it. She trusted him so completely to be too blind, too gentle, too loyal. Not anymore. Leo kept moving, tightening his hold on Olivia. The cold Colorado night. Outside, the mountain air hit him with a freezing bite. Snow crunched under his boots, the only sound in the sleeping luxury complex. His breath puffed in silver clouds as he crossed the parking lot, scanning the shadows. The rental SUV sat alone under a lamp. Leo opened the back door and gently laid Olivia across the seats, tucking her quilt around her. She blinked awake briefly. "Is Mommy coming?" she mumbled. Leo froze for heartbeat. "No, honey, it's just us right now." "Okay," she whispered, drifting back to sleep. He closed the door quietly, loaded the luggage, and climbed into the driver's seat. His hands shook for the first time all night, not from fear but from the sheer adrenaline of what he was doing. He glanced once more toward the condo. The windows glowed with soft gold light. Inside, his wife, the woman who had been plotting to destroy his life, slept soundly. Leo turned the key. The engine hummed to life, low and steady. He reversed gently, tires crunching over snow, and pulled onto the empty road. The drive to Aspen Airport. The mountain roads were dark and winding. Snow flurries drifted lazily across the windshield, illuminated in the headlights like falling embers. Leo gripped the wheel with one hand while the other rested on the console, close enough to reach back to Olivia if she woke. He checked the time. 12:43 a.m. The morning flights would start at dawn. He just had to get them there. As he drove, thoughts piled up in tight, controlled layers. 14 months of lies. 14 months of gaslighting. 14 months of pretending things were fine while she and Peter plotted to burn down everything I built. He kept his breathing steady. "Don't fall apart. Not now. She's counting on you." At one point, Olivia stirred and sat up slightly. "Daddy, where are we?" "Still driving, Peanut," he said gently. "Go back to sleep." "Okay." She rubbed her eyes and lay down again, hugging her bear. Leo blinked hard, emotion tightening his chest. His daughter trusted him completely, unconditionally. And Vanessa planned to rip him out of her life with lies and fabricated rage. Not happening. Never happening. Aspen Airport before dawn. By the time they reached the small airport, the sky had begun to lighten with a faint gray-blue stroke on the horizon. The parking lot was nearly empty. Only a few early morning travelers trudged through the cold toward the terminal. Leo parked and shut the engine off. His body ached from tension. He stepped out, opened the back door, and stroked Olivia's cheek. "Time to wake up, sweetheart." She blinked slowly. "We're at the airport." "Yeah, we're heading home early." "Is Grandma mad?" she asked, yawning. Leo almost laughed, a humorless, tired sound. "Probably, but that's okay." He lifted her, wrapped the quilt around her shoulders, and took her small suitcase in his other hand. Half asleep, she leaned into his chest, trusting him to guide her through the frigid air. Inside the terminal, the warm, dry heat washed over them. Leo carried her to the ticket counter. The attendant smiled politely. "Good morning. Early start." "Yeah," Leo said, voice calm. "2 tickets to Boston on the earliest flight you've got." She tapped her keyboard, nodded, and printed their boarding passes. "You're just in time," she said. "Gate 3 is boarding in 40 minutes. "Perfect." Leo thanked her and guided Olivia to a quiet corner of the waiting area. He sat her on a cushioned seat, handed her the tablet, and brushed her hair back. "You doing okay?" he asked softly. She nodded. "I like early flights. It feels like secret spy stuff." Leo's throat tightened. "Yeah," he whispered, just like that. She opened a cartoon, the soft glow lighting her drowsy face. Leo sat beside her. He didn't lean back. He didn't close his eyes. He watched the windows as the sun slowly crept up over the snowy tarmac. He watched the entrance in case Vanessa's parents somehow realized they were gone and came storming in. But no one came. No one expected Leo Mercer to walk away quietly. No one expected him to be gone before sunrise. The long, sleepless night. When boarding was called, Leo lifted Olivia again, led her down the jet bridge, and settled her into the window seat. She curled up with her quilt and her bear, humming softly to herself. As the plane taxied, Leo took her hand gently in his own. She squeezed his fingers, smiling sleepily. Leo didn't sleep. Not for a single minute. He stared out the window as the mountains fell away beneath them, planning. Step 1. Protect Olivia. Step 2. Protect the company. Step 3. Survive the war Vanessa had prepared without him knowing. He tightened his hand around his daughter's. Whatever came next, he would be ready. Chapter 5. The Fallout. The snow outside Leo's Boston home had crusted into dirty gray edges along the driveway, the remnants of a winter storm that had blown through the night before Vanessa's return. The air held a biting cold, one that seemed to seep into the foundation of the house itself. Inside, though, everything was startlingly still. Boxes clean, labeled, organized, lined the foyer wall. Vanessa's clothes, her shoes, her handbags, all carefully packed, all waiting. Leo stood by the staircase, his posture straight, arms folded across his chest. He had slept maybe 8 hours total since the flight from Aspen. His eyes were sharp, tired but focused. The printed stack of evidence, messages, screenshots, documents, the transcript of the voice memo, rested on the console table beside him. This wasn't the man Vanessa left behind at the condo. This was someone she had created without realizing it. Someone done playing nice. At exactly 11:07 a.m., the doorbell rang, long, impatient, entitled. Leo didn't move. 3 seconds later, pounding. "Leo, open the door right now." Vanessa's voice cracked through the wood, high-pitched and furious. "This isn't funny." Leo walked forward, unlocked the door, and pulled it open. Vanessa stormed in, snow dusting the sleeves of her designer coat. Her hair was still perfectly curled, as if she had styled it in the airport restroom just to look put together for the confrontation she was certain she would win. But the moment her eyes found the boxes, she froze. "What the hell is this?" Leo didn't answer. He closed the door quietly behind her. Vanessa spun toward him, her heels clicking sharply on the hardwood. "Why are my things packed? Why were the locks changed? Why the hell can't I access the office server?" Leo remained still, calm, controlled. "Because," he said evenly, "you don't live here anymore." For a moment, Vanessa simply stared, mouth open, incredulous. Then she laughed, a brittle, disbelieving sound. "Leo, don't start with whatever tantrum you think you're pulling. Where's Olivia? I want to see her." "She's at school." "Well, good." Vanessa snapped, tossing her purse on a chair. "Because we need to have a serious talk about this stunt." "I agree," Leo said. "We do." He reached behind him and lifted the stack of papers. Vanessa's eyes flickered to the bolded subject lines, her breath hitching. "Recognize these?" "Leo," he held up a hand. "You don't speak until I finish." Vanessa bristled. "You don't get to tell me, sit." Something in his voice made her falter. Not volume, not anger, finality. She hesitated, then lowered herself onto the bench beside the boxed clothing. Leo remained standing. He placed the first page in her lap, a printed photo of her and Peter Calloway in his condo. Their hands clasped, their bodies close, Time-stamped. Vanessa's face went rigid. Leo laid down the next page. Text messages. Explicit. Strategic. Cruel. Then another. Emails detailing how they planned to lure two of Leo's senior project managers away. Another. A document outlining the bid Peter used to undercut Leo's company, using Leo's own confidential files. Vanessa shook her head slowly. Leo, you're misunderstanding. Leo set down the last sheet. The transcribed voice memo. A few words highlighted in yellow. The moment Christmas is over, I'll file. I'll say he snapped again. Dad's lawyer said that gives us a solid custody angle. We push him out of the company. Peter takes over the expansion projects. Once I have full custody, Leo won't cause trouble. He's too afraid of losing Olivia. Vanessa's voice. Word for word. Her face drained of all color. Where did you get that? She whispered. Olivia found the flash drive. In your suitcase. The shock that crossed her face was almost comical. Then anger rushed in like a tide. That little, I can't believe, stop, Leo said sharply, stepping closer. You don't get to blame her for anything. She saved us. You were going to destroy our lives, Vanessa. I wasn't your twisting. It wasn't finished. It was detailed, Leo said. It was deliberate. And it's over. She stood abruptly, anger flushing her cheeks. You think you could just throw me out? You think you could take Olivia away from me? Leo, you're out of your mind. My parents will bury you in court. Peter has attorneys who handle bigger cases in their sleep. Leo's jaw tightened, but his voice stayed controlled. I'm not arguing with you. Then what are you doing? She demanded. Ending this marriage. Vanessa let out a scoffing laugh. You don't decide that. I do. Starting now. She stepped toward him, eyes narrow. You're being dramatic. You love to play the victim, don't you? One little misunderstanding, and you're throwing away 15 years. 14 months, Leo corrected quietly. That's how long this wasn't a misunderstanding. She flinched. He continued. You're going to sign the divorce agreement when I send it. You will not fight me on custody. Olivia stays with me. Permanently. Vanessa stared at him as if he'd slapped her. I'm her mother. And yet, Leo said softly, you were willing to weaponize her. I was not. You were willing to lie about me abusing her. Vanessa froze again. Leo leaned forward slightly. Do you know what it feels like to listen to the woman you love plan to paint you as a violent man? To hear her say she'll take your daughter away so she can run off with someone else? Vanessa swallowed. Leo breathed in slowly. This marriage is dead. You killed it. You killed it long before Aspen. Vanessa's eyes flickered with something, uncertainty, fear, but it hardened quickly into rage. You can't do this, she hissed. You can't shut me out of everything. You can't. I already have. Leo motioned toward the house. Your access cards are disabled. Your name is off the joint accounts. The office changed passwords the morning I landed. Her lips parted, stunned. You went behind my back? Leo stared at her. Behind her back? The silence between them hung like a blade. Vanessa's hands clenched. My family will crush you. You understand that, right? My parents know people who run courts in this state. You are nothing compared to them. Leo didn't blink. I don't care how much money they have. You're not getting Olivia. Vanessa stood there, trembling with fury, looking around the house that was no longer hers. You're making a mistake, she whispered viciously. A massive one. You think you're stronger than me? Stronger than my family? Stronger than Peter? Leo didn't move, didn't answer, didn't blink, because the chapter ended right there. Chapter 6, The War Begins. The first shot was quiet. A phone call at 6:12 a.m., waking Leo from a thin, restless sleep. Olivia was still curled against him, breathing softly. He reached for the phone on the nightstand, rubbing his eyes. Hello. Mr. Mercer? A male voice asked. This is Detective Horwitz with the Boston Police Department. We'd like you to come down to the station today. It's regarding a bribery investigation. Leo sat upright. What? Bribery? Construction kickbacks. We need to ask you some questions. He blinked, stunned. This is a mistake. We'll explain when you get here. Click. The line went dead. Leo stared at the phone, feeling a cold weight settle in his chest. A bribery investigation? He ran one of the cleanest construction firms in the city. But the Prescott family, they had influence everywhere. He looked at the door of Olivia's room, thinking of everything he'd tried to protect. Now the war had begun. At the police station, the questioning lasted nearly 2 hours. Detectives asked about inspector relationships, permit approvals, subcontractors. Their tone wasn't accusatory yet, but it was probing, sharp, suspicious. Finally, Leo snapped. "Where is this coming from? Who told you I was bribing inspectors?" "We received an anonymous tip," Horwitz replied. A cold smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "With documents. Someone had planted them." Leo left the station with a knot tightening in his stomach, the winter wind cutting across his face like a blade. He climbed into his truck and sat there for several long minutes, fingers gripping the steering wheel. Vanessa had moved faster than he expected. Or maybe Peter had. Blow 2 comes at noon. The call from his sister, frantic and breathless. "Leo, you need to get to Mom's house right now." "Why? What happened?" "Social services is here. They're asking about Olivia. They're asking if you're unstable or violent." "Leo, what is going on?" His heart punched his ribs. "I'll be there in 10 minutes. He floored the accelerator. When he arrived, a social worker in a stiff navy blazer stood in the living room, clipboard in hand, interviewing his mother. His mother, gentle, gray-haired, soft-spoken, looked humiliated and terrified. "Mr. Mercer," the social worker said, turning to him, "we received a report alleging potential danger in your household environment." "My household? Olivia isn't even here." Leo snapped. "We still must investigate all reported concerns." Leo's jaw clenched. "And who filed the report?" "That information is confidential." Of course it was. Vanessa and her parents were attacking his reputation as a father, preparing for a custody war she wasn't going to win. He forced himself to stay calm, answering their questions, showing documentation, offering names of teachers, neighbors, pediatricians, anyone to prove he was a stable, loving parent. The social worker eventually left. His mother touched his arm gently. "Leo, who is doing this to you?" He couldn't answer. He already knew. Blow 3 hits at 3:43 p.m. His phone buzzed with a notification. Boston Globe. Local contractor under fire for alleged illegal labor practices. A photo of him, taken from his company website, sat above 3 paragraphs of claims. Hiring undocumented workers, exploiting cheap labor, forging employee records, all lies. All devastating. His phone started vibrating nonstop. Employees, friends, even competitors calling to ask what happened. The media email inbox exploded. He called his office. His operations manager, Kevin, answered immediately. "Leo, man, you need to see this. It's everywhere. The phones won't stop ringing." "I've seen it," Leo said through gritted teeth. "It's coordinated." Kevin hesitated. "One more thing. 2 clients already called to postpone projects. One wants out of the contract entirely." Leo closed his eyes. There it was. Blow 4. His business, the thing he built from sweat and 16-hour days, was being poisoned in real time. Reputation meant everything in construction. Accusations stuck like tar. "Keep everything running," Leo said quietly. "I'll handle this." But he had no idea how. The 5th shot comes at dusk. He was walking through the parking lot outside his office when his foreman approached, face pale. "Boss, I don't know how to tell you this, but Arlington Medical pulled out of the expansion project." Leo froze. That project was worth several million, a cornerstone of his first quarter. "Why?" "They said they couldn't be associated with ongoing investigations." Investigations. Plural. Leo's throat tightened. The police inquiry. Social services. The Globe article. Clients fleeing. A perfectly coordinated execution. He leaned against his truck, breath shaking despite the freezing night air. This wasn't just retaliation. This was destruction. Designed by Vanessa. Refined by Peter. Empowered by the Prescott's vast network. His phone buzzed again. Another client pulling out. Then another. He didn't answer any of them. At home. That night, after Olivia was asleep, Leo sat alone in the dim living room, laptop open, dozens of tabs displaying articles, emails, notices from clients, and the police's follow-up questions. The attacks had been launched within hours of each other. Not sloppy, Not emotional. Strategic. Vanessa hadn't just betrayed him. She was using every corrupt connection her family possessed to crush him before the divorce even started. He felt his chest tighten, anger mixing with disbelief. He had always known the Prescotts were arrogant, privileged, and morally slippery, but this level of ruthless precision, he underestimated them. He underestimated her. His phone buzzed again. This time, he didn't hesitate to answer. "Natalia," he said softly. Her voice came through firm and steady. "Leo, I heard what happened today. I need to see you. Tonight, if possible." He swallowed. "It's bad. It's more than bad," she said. "I've looked at the timing of the reports, the type of evidence that showed up, the legal names involved in the collapses. Leo, this isn't random. I know. It's coordinated." He closed his eyes, letting the truth settle like ice down his spine. "Vanessa," he whispered. "And her parents," Reyes confirmed. "And I'm almost certain Peter Calloway is helping them. They're preparing to destroy you completely." Leo's hand clenched into a fist. Everything he loved, his daughter, his company, his reputation, was under attack. They wanted him ruined, finished, erased. Natalia's voice softened, but carried a warning. "Leo, this is war." And the chapter ended right there. Chapter 7, The Hidden Past. Leo waited until the house was silent. The condo's smart lights dimmed themselves at midnight, the system humming faintly as it cycled into its night mode. Down the hall, Olivia's soft breathing drifted out from her cracked door. Vanessa slept in the master bedroom, restless, turning every few minutes, guilt gnawing at her even in unconsciousness. Leo sat alone at the small built-in desk near the window, the city skyline glowing beyond the glass. His laptop sat open before him, a black screen reflecting his own exhausted face. "Let's finish this," he whispered. With a deep breath, he reached into the lining of his jacket and removed a slim, encrypted external drive. A mundane object to anyone else, but to Leo, it was the result of years of suspicion, silent observation, and quiet preparation. His insurance file. He plugged it in. The laptop screen flickered to life, the decryption program asking for his passphrase. He typed it slowly, deliberately. The vault opened. Folders filled the screen, each one labeled with a name, a date, a place. Leo stared for a moment before he began to click through his own digital labyrinth. Shady inspectors. The first folder held photos he had taken himself. Corrupt building and safety inspectors shaking hands with Prescott project managers. Papers being signed behind tinted windows. One video played on screen. An inspector whispering, "As long as you keep the cash flowing, the permits stay green." Leo clenched his jaw. For years he'd assumed it was just corporate greed, cut corners, bribes, things rich families did behind closed doors. But now, with everything happening around him, he saw it differently. It wasn't just corruption. It was orchestration. Thread by thread, the Prescott family wove a dirty net that trapped everyone beneath them, including him. He clicked into the next folder. Politicians on the payroll. Emails. Dozens of them. Politicians thanking the Prescotts for campaign contributions, support, and logistical help. Photos of Peter standing beside council members at private events. Even a video showing a senator laughing with Ethan Prescott, Vanessa's father. Leo rubbed his temples. He had collected all of this over years, quietly, cautiously, never sure if it would matter, but unable to ignore the feeling that something was wrong. Now he understood why that instinct had gnawed at him for so long. He moved on. Family crimes. This folder was larger, much larger. Financial reports, laundered money, fake shell companies, offshore accounts, and his stomach twisted, documents linking his own company to the scheme. Bridges and Hartwell Consulting. His company, the business he had built from scratch, the brand he had poured blood and sweat into. "Damn it," Leo whispered. But the paper trail was clear. Peter Prescott had used Leo's company as a clean front for transferring money between offshore accounts and local development projects. Nothing Leo had done directly. No illegal signatures, no consent, but the Prescotts had run transactions through clients pretending to work with his firm. Leo stared blankly at the screen. They used me, used my name, used my reputation. And Vanessa, did she know? He scrolled through email chains between Prescott executives. Leo's company is the perfect cover. He'll never question it. As long as Vanessa keeps him comfortable, it stays smooth. The last sentence made Leo pause. As long as Vanessa keeps him comfortable. A cold, metallic taste filled his mouth. His heartbeat grew heavy. He clicked another subfolder, one he had added recently after the flash drive Olivia had given him. Inside were Vanessa's messages, her photos, her videos, her hidden life. But tonight, Leo wasn't just reviewing the betrayal. He was connecting dots, and the lines pointed further back than he ever imagined. The beginning of the affair. He opened another document titled, Prescott, Personal Archive, Vanessa Years. The first entry was a photo of Vanessa and Peter. Leo leaned closer. The timestamp said 8 years ago, a full year before he and Vanessa had even met. More photos followed, some formal, some far too intimate, none ambiguous. They had been together for years. Long before their marriage. Long before Olivia. Long before Leo ever stepped into the Prescott family orbit. He scrolled slowly, disbelief freezing his thoughts. They were lovers. Then they pretended to drift apart. Then Vanessa met Leo. Leo almost laughed, bitter and humorless. He remembered that night perfectly. A charity gala. Vanessa had approached him, smiling shyly, claiming she had seen him in an interview and admired his work ethic. She'd seemed sincere, brilliant, beautiful, grounded. All of it had been a script. He clicked further. A file called The Selection caught his eye. Leo hesitated, then opened it. It was a collection of emails between Ethan Prescott and Peter. Vanessa needs a stable partner. Someone clean. Someone believable. Leo Bridges fits the image. He's hardworking. No scandals, no enemies. He'll make a perfect husband. The words burned on the screen. They didn't choose him. They assigned him. Leo sat back in his chair, a shiver crawling up his spine. Pieces of conversations, memories of suspicious moments over the years, Vanessa's occasional coldness, all of it snapped together like magnets locking into place. He swallowed hard. He clicked into one last folder, the one he had been avoiding since the moment Olivia slipped him the flash drive. Olivia, medical records. The folder contained scanned documents, a few grainy photos of lab results, files labeled confidential, and one digital paternity report. Leo hovered the mouse over it. His hand shook. Just open it, he murmured. He clicked. The document loaded. Numbers. Probabilities. Genetic markers. At the bottom, biological father. Peter Prescott probability. 99.97%. Leo froze. For a moment, he didn't breathe. The room felt smaller, the silence suffocating. He read the line again, and again, and again. He expected to feel rage, devastation, betrayal, something explosive. Instead, he felt hollow. A strange stillness settled in his chest, an emotional quiet he hadn't expected. His mind drifted to Olivia, her laughter, her drawings, her stubborn little frown when doing homework, the way she clung to him when she was scared. His daughter. Always. He shut his eyes. Biology meant nothing. Blood meant nothing. Olivia was his child, his heart, his responsibility, his world. When he opened his eyes again, they were steady, clear. He whispered, almost himself, "She's mine, no matter what they did, no matter how they planned it. Olivia is mine." The laptop screen glowed quietly, lines of corruption, betrayal, and secrets staring back at him. Leo didn't flinch. Zero, he didn't break. He simply inhaled slowly and whispered, "Now I know everything." And he closed the laptop. Chapter 8, The Counterattack. Morning arrived quietly. Leo had not slept. Not a minute. After uncovering the truth, the corruption, the affair that stretched back before their marriage, the paternity results, his body simply refused rest. His mind pulsed with a sharp, electric awareness. He sat at the kitchen island with a cup of untouched coffee, his laptop open, the encrypted drive connected. The condo was still asleep. Vanessa remained in the guest room after a tense, hollow night. Olivia was curled up in her blanket fortress, unaware of the storm brewing. Leo exhaled slowly. It was time, not for confrontation, not for screaming, Not for revenge in the emotional sense. Time for strategy. Assembling the war table. He opened a new folder on his laptop titled Master File Prescott RICO Case. Then he dragged each piece of evidence, photos, audio recordings, videos, forged documents, bribery trails, wire transfers, into subfolders labeled racketeering, bribery and public corruption, money laundering, client fraud using my firm, illegal foreign funds, digital evidence from Vanessa's flash drive, each folder filled with damning proof. Leo clicked through each one again, verifying dates, cross-referencing signatures, attaching screenshots of metadata, creating a clean chronology. His meticulous nature, something people once teased him about, became his greatest weapon. Every lie they had built, every crime they had executed, every secret they had buried, he put it all in order. A single, undeniable chain. A noose. Halfway through reorganizing, his phone buzzed. Detective Reyes. You awake? Leo snorted. Barely. He typed back. Leo, I need to meet. Today. The typing bubbles appeared immediately. Detective Reyes. Bad night? Leo stared at the blinking screen, the weight of everything pressing on his chest. Leo, I know everything now. A long pause. Then, Detective Reyes. I'm coming to you. Detective Reyes arrives. When the doorbell rang, Leo opened the door before the chime even finished. Detective Marisol Reyes stood in the hallway, dark hair in a loose braid, leather jacket zipped halfway, eyes sharp and searching. You look like hell, she said softly. I feel worse, Leo replied. Reyes stepped inside without another word. As she passed him, she put a hand on his arm, a brief grounding touch, warm and steady. Show me. Leo led her to the table. With a laptop, displayed the web of evidence like a digital battlefield. Reyes leaned over, scanning quickly, her expression shifting from concern to disbelief to grim satisfaction. My God, she whispered. Leo, you did all this alone? For years, he said quietly. I didn't know what I was collecting. I just kept digging. She sat, rubbing her temples. This isn't just incriminating. This is enough to bury them. Leo pulled up the paternity report, the emails about choosing him as Vanessa's husband, the launder transactions through his firm. Reyes' jaw tightened. They used you as a front, she said. A good man with a clean reputation, perfect camouflage. Leo looked down. They built my life just to use it. Reyes reached out and placed her hand over his. They built lies around you. But your life, your work, your daughter, those are yours. Her voice was steady, grounding him again. Leo nodded. Reyes, I want to bring them all down. Legally. Permanently. Her eyes sharpened. Then let's build the case right. Planning to strike. Reyes set up her tablet beside his laptop. Start from the top, she said. Every connection. Every timeline. Every dollar. For the next 3 hours, they built a digital war room. Leo narrated the events, facts, and suspicions he had kept buried for years. Reyes added links to known cases, cross-referenced corruption reports, and flagged federal statutes. At one point, she paused. Your company, Bridges and Hartwell, none of this sticks to you directly. Leo blinked, stunned. But they used my firm. And you didn't sign any authorizations, she said. Someone forged internal approvals. Someone else submitted falsified invoices. You're the victim of identity misuse and corporate fraud. Leo let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Reyes smirked lightly. Relax, Leo. You're not going down. You're going to be the star witness. Great, he muttered. That's exactly what I always dreamed of. She chuckled softly, one of the few times he had ever heard her laugh. They continued. By mid-afternoon, they had built a timeline of 12 years' evidence linking the Prescotts to 3 bribed inspectors' emails tying Peter to illegal offshore transfers, video evidence of 2 politicians accepting gifts, records showing Vanessa laundering money through staged family expenses, transactions linking stolen client funds to a Prescott subsidiary, a digital map tying everything together under a racketeering umbrella. Reyes zoomed out on the monitor. A spiderweb of criminal activity sprawled across the screen. She exhaled. Leo, this is a full-blown RICO case. and you're sitting on enough evidence to trigger federal involvement. Good, he said. That's what I want. Contacting federal investigators. Reyes picked up her phone and rotated it toward him. Leo, once we send this, there's no turning back. Federal agents. Warrants. Seizures. This will implode the entire Prescott empire. And they deserve it, Leo said. Every piece of it. Reyes studied him carefully, her eyes softening. You're remarkably calm. I'm past breaking, Leo answered. Now I'm building. She held his gaze for a long moment. Then she nodded. All right, let's make the call. She dialed a secure contact, Special Agent Cole from the FBI's Public Corruption Task Force. The voice on the other end was deep and professional. Reyes, what do you have? A whistleblower with primary source evidence on a potential racketeering network involving the Prescott corporate group. It was a long silence. Then, send the files. Now, Reyes looked at Leo for confirmation. Leo inhaled a slow, deliberate breath, then nodded. She hit send. It felt like dropping a match into a forest of dry leaves. There was no explosion, no sound, but Leo felt the shift. A point of no return, an emotional anchor. After the call, Leo slumped back in his chair, suddenly aware of how drained he was. Reyes watched him for a moment. Then she said quietly, You did the right thing. Leo let out a bitter laugh. Feels like I've been living in a script someone else wrote. Then rewrite it, she said simply. He looked at her. Her presence was steady, strong without being dominating, empathetic without being pitying. She had become his sounding board, his guide through the chaos, and unexpectedly, his anchor. Reyes, he said slowly, I couldn't have done this without you. She shrugged, but her eyes softened. Maybe not, but you chose to fight. That's all you. Leo nodded. For the first time in weeks, he felt a sliver of control return to his lungs, his heartbeat, his mind. Reyes stood and squeezed his shoulder. I'll keep you updated. The feds will move fast once they verify the files. Leo met her eyes. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, she said, smirking lightly. War hasn't even started. She started toward the door, stopped, and added quietly. But you're not alone in it. And then she left. Leo looked at the glowing screen, the evidence, the timelines, the web of crimes. Everything was in motion now. He closed the laptop slowly. The counterattack had begun. Chapter 9, The Prescott Gala. The Prescott Foundation Gala was everything Leo had ever loathed about the elite. Polished, artificial, and dripping with wealth he had no respect for. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, their light bouncing off polished marble floors. Servers in pristine black and white uniforms floated like shadows, carrying silver trays heavy with champagne and delicate hors d'oeuvres. The smell of truffle and expensive perfume hung in the air, mixing with soft, rehearsed laughter. Leo walked through the massive front doors wearing a tailored tuxedo borrowed from a friend's boutique, a tux he would later pay off without hesitation. He was uninvited. He was unnoticed. And yet, he had never felt more certain of where he belonged. Harold Prescott, in a sharply pressed midnight blue suit, was at the center of a circle of well-dressed socialites, smiling like a king surveying his court. Vanessa drifted beside him, diamonds glinting, hair perfectly curled, laughter tinkling like wind chimes. Peter Calloway, smug and confident, sipped champagne at a nearby table, casually scanning the room. They were comfortable here. They were untouchable, or so they thought. Leo's eyes tracked them, his jaw tight. He adjusted his cufflinks, glanced at the small earpiece Reyes had insisted he wear, and took a deep breath. Tonight would change everything, the moment of unveiling. He waited near the edge of the ballroom, pretending to check his phone. At his signal, the lights dimmed suddenly, not a malfunction, but part of the carefully timed operation. A hush fell over the crowd. Leo felt Reyes' hand briefly press against his shoulder, steadying him. Then the first screen flickered to life above the grand staircase. The initial visuals were subtle, financial charts and diagrams at first, slowly zooming into details that only a few in the crowd could recognize. Then came the first bombshell. The words "Permit Fraud" flashed in bold across the giant LED screens. Gasps ran through the room. Socialites murmured nervously. Harold Prescott's smile faltered. Peter's grip tightened on his champagne flute. Vanessa's eyes went wide. Leo stepped forward, letting his presence register without rushing. The next screen lit up, emails, dates, and images showing inspectors taking bribes, all connected to Prescott projects. A timeline traced back nearly a decade, linking payments, approvals, and hidden contractors. Each step meticulously documented. Ladies and gentlemen, Leo's voice carried through the subtle sound system Reyes had hacked into, calm and precise. You've been deceived, not by rumors, not by gossip, but by facts. The ballroom fell silent. The glittering world paused. Screens now displayed money laundering operations, showing offshore accounts and transfers flowing through Leo's company. Next, audio recordings of Vanessa and Peter plotting client theft and undermining his business played faintly. Leo watched Vanessa blanch as she realized this wasn't speculation, it was evidence. The paternity reveal. Leo's hand went to the final folder he had prepared, the one that would shatter any illusions they had of control. The screens changed again. Ladies and gentlemen, Leo said, his voice low, deliberate, almost intimate. And now, the truth about a child caught in this web of deceit. He clicked. Olivia's birth certificate appeared. Her name, her date of birth, everything official, everything irrefutable. The next image, the one that made Peter's face pale and Vanessa's breath hitch, was the DNA test report. The words were stark. Biological father. Peter Calloway. The room held its collective breath. A few whispered confused. Some looked horrified. Others simply stared, unable to believe the spectacle. Leo's eyes, however, were calm, focused on Vanessa. The arrests. Moments later, agents in sharp black suits began to move in. They spread across the ballroom like shadows, surrounding tables, cutting off exits. Their badges flashed, and their presence drew immediate attention. Socialites gasped. Cameras clicked. The room erupted into chaos. Harold Prescott froze as agents approached. Peter Calloway barely had time to turn, a mask of arrogance replaced by alarm. Both men were handcuffed and read their rights. They were led out of the room, unable to protest, their faces red with fury and humiliation. Vanessa, frozen mid-step, turned to Leo with wide, desperate eyes. She opened her mouth, but no words came. Her carefully constructed world collapsed in a matter of minutes, unraveling in public, surrounded by every influential person she had relied on to shield her from consequences. Two security personnel reached for her arms. "Vanessa Prescott, you're under arrest," one said firmly. "Please cooperate." She struggled briefly, but the crowd's attention and the sheer authority of the agents left her no choice. She was dragged toward the exit, her heels clattering against the marble, the flashing lights catching on her tears and diamonds alike. Every head in the elite gathering turned to watch. Murmurs and shocked gasps filled the room. Leo watched her being removed, his expression unreadable. The confrontation. Once Vanessa was within arm's reach, Leo stepped forward. The ballroom, though chaotic, seemed to shrink around them. He lowered his voice, addressing her directly. "Biology doesn't make a father." Her eyes widened, almost pleading. "Leo, please." He shook his head slowly. "Olivia chose me, the moment she gave me that flash drive." Vanessa's lips quivered. You can't, she's—" "Stop." Leo interrupted softly but firmly. "You will never see her again." A heavy silence followed. Her entire expression flickered between disbelief, rage, and despair. She wanted to argue, to manipulate, to threaten, but nothing she could do would undo the truth or the evidence now paraded across the screens. The socialites, staff, and even the FBI agents became secondary to the intimate, brutal finality in Leo's voice. He turned slightly, ensuring she understood he meant every word. "Calm, controlled, resolved. You made your choices," he continued quietly. "And Olivia made hers, without even knowing she was doing it. She chose her family. She chose me." Vanessa opened her mouth again, but Leo cut her off, his presence like iron. Agents guided her out of the room as her cries turned into muffled protests. Leo stayed where he was, letting the moment settle. The screens continued to play the timeline of corruption, the emails, the financial records, and the damning audio. Every attendee, every influential person in the room, saw the full scope of what the Prescotts and Peter had done. No one could deny it. No one could excuse it. And Vanessa, who had spent years believing herself untouchable, had no words, no allies, no escape. The aftermath of the reveal. Leo stepped back, letting the room breathe in the enormity of what had just happened. Guests murmured, shocked but unable to avert their eyes. Some whispered in awe. Others muttered about the presumption of a construction executive daring to enter their world uninvited. But everyone had seen the truth. Federal agents escorted the arrested men away, Peter glaring at Leo with all the venom he could muster. Harold Prescott's face had paled to an ash-like gray. The elite world of Boston's wealthiest had just been reminded. Power without integrity is a fragile illusion. Leo finally exhaled, the tension of months, of years of betrayals, finally releasing in small increments. He looked toward the balcony, imagining Olivia, imagining her safe, imagining the future he had fought for. And in the midst of the chaos, he had delivered the final message to the woman who had once claimed to own his life. Biology doesn't make a father. Olivia chose me, the moment she gave me that flash drive. You will never see her again. Chapter 10, Peace After the Storm. The Boston morning air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of winter pine from the nearby park. Leo stood outside the modest yet thriving office of Bridges and Hartwell Consulting, sunlight glinting off the large windows. For the first time in months, there was no looming tension, no whisper of investigations, no hint of betrayal hanging in the air. It was quiet, safe, not empty, safe. Inside, the hum of staff at work was steady, productive, normal. The clients who had fled during the smear campaign were returning, contracts reinstated, trust carefully rebuilt. Emails and phone calls that once carried threats and demands now carried congratulations and orders for new projects. Leo moved through the office with a calm efficiency, smiling at familiar faces, acknowledging the nervous but hopeful glances of those who had stuck by him. Custody secured. Later, in the family law chambers, the judge's gavel struck, finalizing what had been inevitable for weeks. Leo was granted sole custody of Olivia. The papers were formal, crisp, unassailable. Leo felt a mixture of relief and awe wash over him. The court had seen the truth, understood the evidence, recognized his commitment. Olivia sat beside him, legs swinging, a bright smile lighting her face. "Can we go to the park after this?" she asked, her voice small but confident. The weight of the past months softened in her eyes. Leo nodded, ruffling her hair gently. "Absolutely. You've earned it." Her laughter was light, ringing like the first clear note of spring after a long, harsh winter. He realized how heavy that sound had been in his absence, how rare, how precious. Justice and consequences. The Prescott, Callaway empire crumbled swiftly after the sting. Federal agents swept through offices and offshore accounts, seizing assets and freezing funds. Reports confirmed Harold Prescott had died awaiting trial, a heart attack taking the man whose arrogance and greed had caused untold damage. Peter Callaway was sentenced to 10 years in federal prison, his smirk and confidence replaced with the hollow stare of inevitability. Vanessa, disgraced and broke, disappeared to Europe. Rumors circulated Italy, then France, but no one knew her exact location. Leo didn't care. The woman who had once promised him love had forfeited any claim to his life or to Olivia's. Leo, however, did not gloat. He walked through the victories quietly, letting the weight of justice settle gently. Revenge had been delivered through law, through preparation, through truth, not through rage. That mattered to him more than public humiliation or headlines. Rebuilding the company. Back at the office, Leo reviewed the quarterly projections. Bridges and Hartwell Consulting was stronger than ever. Projects long stalled due to the smear campaign were resuming. Investors had regained confidence. Staff were motivated, inspired even by a leader who had weathered betrayal and emerged intact, methodical and resilient. Kevin, his operations manager, approached grinning. "Leo, the Prescott fiasco could have killed us, but somehow we're bouncing back faster than ever." Leo nodded, though he kept his eyes on a report. "We were never finished. We just needed the truth to clear the path." Outside the windows, Boston's skyline gleamed in the late morning sun. For once, Leo felt that he could breathe fully, without fear, without distraction, without compromise. Olivia's flourishing. At the local park, Leo watched Olivia practice soccer. Her energy was boundless, her focus sharp. Each kick, each sprint, each laugh as she scored another goal brought a swell of quiet pride to him. He cheered softly, clapping at the precise moment she struck the ball into the net. She ran back to him afterward, her cheeks flushed. "Daddy, did you see that?" "I saw it," he said warmly, lifting her slightly in a playful hug. "That was amazing. I knew you had it in you." She grinned, sweaty and joyful, and dashed off to join her friends. Leo stayed seated on the bench, watching her glide across the field with laughter spilling into the winter air. He realized this was a rare kind of happiness, simple, unshakable, real. She was thriving, emotionally balanced, full of trust and love again. And he had been the anchor, the protector, the constant presence she needed. Detective Reyes' presence. Later, in the calm of his living room, Reyes arrived with a bag of takeout, setting it gently on the kitchen counter. Her presence had become a quiet certainty, a grounding force after years of betrayal and chaos. "You didn't answer my calls all morning," she said, smirking. "I thought maybe you were hiding out in celebration." Leo chuckled. "Or watching Olivia score goal after goal without missing a beat. I've had better priorities." Reyes leaned against the counter, arms crossed, studying him. "You've been through hell. I think you're allowed to enjoy a little peace." He nodded, finally allowing a smile to break through. "It's strange, I didn't know I could feel normal again. Or happy again." She shrugged, but her smile softened. "You can. You deserve it." For the first time in months, maybe even years, Leo allowed himself to lean on someone. Not because he needed saving, but because he had earned trust and companionship. Reyes' presence was no longer just professional. It was a comfort, an acknowledgement that he could allow himself small joys, small attachments, without fear. Quiet reflections. That evening, Leo sat on the porch with Olivia asleep upstairs, the city lights twinkling far below. He sipped coffee from a steaming mug, letting the warmth seep into his chest. The memories of the past year, betrayal, lies, heartbreak, near destruction, hovered at the edges of his mind. But instead of despair, there was clarity. He had protected Olivia. He had preserved their family in its truest form. He had reclaimed his life and reputation. Nothing else mattered. He reflected on the journey, from the flash drive in the Aspen condo, to the midnight escape, to the fall of the Prescotts and Peter, and the public revelation at the gala. Every painstaking plan, every sleepless night, every carefully calculated move had led here. A place where he could finally breathe without fear. The final moment. The next morning, Leo took Olivia to her soccer game. The field was crisp with frost, players stretching and laughing in anticipation. Leo leaned against the fence, watching her take her position. The ball rolled toward her, and with a precise kick, she sent it flying into the net. He cheered, loudly and unrestrained, clapping his hands until his palms hurt. Olivia spun around, her face lit with triumph. She ran to him, arms wide, and he scooped her up, spinning her gently in the cool morning air. "Daddy, did you see it?" she asked breathlessly. "I saw it," he said, holding her close. "And I'm proud of you. Every single moment." For a long while they stayed like that, just the two of them, watching the field, the friends, the goalposts. No threats, no betrayals, no scheming families. Just the wind, the crisp sun, and the quiet sense of safety that came from knowing he had fought, won, and protected what mattered most. For the first time in over a year, Leo felt peace, and he allowed himself to stay in it.